Dr. Shivdasan, it's 11:30. Shall we wait for a few more minutes, because I can still see people are joining in, and let me know when should we be starting. Dr. Shivdasan, can you hear me?
Yes, right. Camera. ഞാൻ കേറിണ്ട് പക്ഷേ വീഡിയോ ആണല്ല തോന്നുന്നു അത് ഇതില് ഞാൻ കേറിയിട്ടുണ്ട് ശരി ആയിരിക്കാം ഇതാണ് വീട്ടിൽ
So, on behalf of Cambridge University Press, I warmly welcome to all the attendees who have joined us today for this workshop on open access initiatives, digital resources, and publishing processes. I can still see people are joining in, but I think in the interest of time, we can begin. Vinod?
Yes, Gunjan. Dr. Shivdasan, sir, shall we begin? Hello?
I hope you can all hear us. Can you just comment in the chat box if you can hear us? Thank you. So, Dr. Shivdasan, shall we begin?
Yeah, he said yes in chat box.
Okay, okay. Okay. So, I'll once again welcome to all the participants in this workshop. My name is Gunjan, and I look after the marketing for Cambridge University Press. Just a sec. And I've been joined by my publishing team members, Anisha Rana and Shoini Ghosh, who will also be it's taking us through this workshop today. Now we have a lot of ground to cover. Okay. Dr. Shivdasan, it is noted. Just allow me a minute and I'll do the needful.
Gunjan,
Yeah.
can we make Dr. Shivdasan sir and VC as panelists? So that
Yeah, I've already made Dr. Shivdasan as the panelist. I am just yeah, Dr. Shivdasan, can you hear me and can you see me now? Or we can see you now. Sir, would you like to address the audience first, and then we can formally begin?
Hello. Hello, is it audible?
Yeah, it's audible, sir.
Yeah, actually, I am Dr. Lajesh. I am the head of the Department of Computer Science. But actually, you have to give access to Vice Chancellor and Shivdasan sir for this. There will be a formal inauguration by the Vice Chancellor for a few minutes. Then we can start.
Okay.
Right.
So
So please.
I've already made Dr. Shivdasan as the panelist. I am sure I can see his screen also now.
Okay. What about Vice Chancellor?
Yeah, I have joined.
Oh, sorry, sir. Okay. Thank you, sir. Oh, yeah. Fine.
But Shivadasan is not seen in the video.
Yeah. I'll talk to him.
I have made Dr. Shivdasan also as the panelist.
Oh, okay. I just talked to him. He will come within few minutes.
Sure. Here he is. Welcome, sir. Dr. Shivdasan, you are on mute.
No, yes.
Yeah.
No, it is okay. Okay, sir. Yeah. Okay, thank you. No. It is unmuted.
So, would you like to begin?
Yes.
So you can means we can hear you. You can begin with.
Okay. Respected Vice Chancellor, just a minute. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Okay. Respected Vice Chancellor, just a minute. Cambridge team and IQAC team of the Calicut University, faculty members of the Calicut University, research scholars, and registered participants from various institutions across India, and my dear friends. Today, we are going to have an online workshop on open access initiatives, digital resources, and publishing processes, organized jointly by the University of Calicut and Cambridge University Press. This is a great opportunity to the faculty and research team of the Calicut University and also other institutions in South India to have an experience of the publishing processes and digital initiatives of the Calicut University, Cambridge University Press. Actually, the Cambridge University Press is cooperating with the Calicut University in many ventures, and they helped us in organizing different programs like South Indian Songs in 2018, and also other initiatives by the launched by the School of Distance Education. Now we have a good and great venture sharing the publishing processes of the Cambridge University Press, and also familiarizing their open access materials and digital resources. We made the IQAC team made a request to the South India Center of Cambridge University Press through the Kerala team manager Adarsh, and we know the processed it, and the Delhi team accepted our request. So we are very happy and we are thankful to the Cambridge University Press for giving us this chance. I am sure that the faculty members and the registered participants would get an opportunity to get familiarized with the publishing processes and the initiatives of the Cambridge University Press through this workshop. Our Vice Chancellor was very happy to know this initiative of the IQAC, and it was with his support and the support of the University of Calicut, we could materialize this program. And we are also very happy to cooperate with the Cambridge University Press because it is a leading publishing university institution in the world. And Calicut University is also a pioneer research institution in South Asia. So we are ready to share the research experience of this university with the Cambridge University, not only just by contributing manuscripts for publication, but also by further ventures of collaborative events in future. Anyway, we are happy that we are going to have this program, and I have seen that about 300 people are participating in this event. Actually, our Vice Chancellor, Professor M.K. Jairaj, took charge just a few months ago, and he is very interested in supporting these kinds of academic ventures in this by the University of Calicut. My duty is just delivering a welcome address. Our Vice Chancellor, Professor M.K. Jairaj, he is a good academician from the field of physics, and he is giving leadership for sharing the knowledge produced by Calicut University and its research and faculty members. So on behalf of the Cambridge University Press and the University of Calicut, I extend him a warm welcome. We have with us editorial team from Gunjan, Anvesha, and Vaishali to introduce different topics of related with the Cambridge University Press. And on behalf of the University of Calicut and Cambridge University Press, I extend them happy welcome to the workshop. Actually, it was with the support of Adarsh of the Kerala region and Vinod of South India region from Chennai, we were able to have this program. Also, there was support from Gunjan. So on behalf of the workshop, I extend them warm welcome. And we have my colleagues in the IQAC department, board members and also faculty members of the Calicut University, research scholars from Calicut University, and also a lot of other people from various institutions, not only from Kerala, but from other states, North India also. So on behalf of the workshop, Cambridge University Press and University of Calicut, I extend them all a very good welcome. I hope that this would help all of us in developing new ventures in the arena of creation of knowledge. Thank you all.
Thank you so much, sir, for your warm wishes and welcome. And I know our relationship goes back with since like many number of years, at least since the time I have been associated with Cambridge University Press. So yeah, we really look forward to many more such ventures and events together, wherein we can help the faculty members and the research fraternity in the best ways. Thank you so much once again.
Okay, welcome.
So
let us welcome. Let us invite our Honorable Vice Chancellor to deliver the inaugural address. Jara sir.
Yeah, very good morning. Am I audible?
yes.
Yes sir. Yes sir.
Yeah,
Thank you sir.
very good morning. I'm very glad to be a part of this initiative, the workshop on open access institutes and publishing process, organized by the Cambridge University Press in collaboration with the IQAC team of Calicut University. I especially congratulate Dr. Shivadasan and the IQAC team for this initiative, and I thank the Cambridge University for choosing Calicut University for sharing their ideas on publishing process and open access initiatives. As all of you know that all the universities should be a knowledge creation center. And if it is a knowledge creation center, it should be disseminated to the society. And as a part of this, any university has to have a printing and publishing division. As I know that one of the oldest one is the Cambridge University Press, which started way back in 1543 or so. And being a physicist, I am also glad that the new Sir Isaac Newton's Principia was republished by the Cambridge University Press in 1713. And I also am a frequent visitor of Journal of Material Research, being a material scientist, one of the leading journals published by the Cambridge University Press. Calicut University also has a printing press, and we also have few journals. Some of them, as I know, it's have an impact factor, and which is as old as 25 years. So one of the questions I have to raise here is that Cambridge University already have an open access partnership program with other publishers. So why don't you think about making a publishing partnership with the Calicut University? Because certain regional journals which may not have that much circulation, but already we have a classical Hindi, English, the Malayalam as a classical language. Many universities outside India also have Malayalam, which is Malayalam department. So some of the journals, for example, comparative literature and so on, and there is journal from botany department. So Cambridge University can think about having a open access partnership with the Calicut University. This gives a value added and wider exposure to the university community, to the other peers in the world. Another possibilities from my experience, which I found that I have been working in Cochin University, There they published the thesis, which is called Diti publication, which is supported by UGC. This creates some problem because certain times students submit the thesis and it is published in Diti, and we cannot publish it further because it's already an open access. Diti is an open access, and it doesn't have a wider circulation because it is not known to others outside the India. So that gives a less exposure and less publicity to the work which the student has been carried out. So there is a possibility that the publication of certain theses through this open access program, which may Cambridge University Press can take initiative. Because of this issue, I recently, some of my students' thesis, we made an abridged version. We rewrite the whole thesis into few chapters, and it is just published by Springer. And during this COVID time, I have been advocating to students because they think that the time is losing. So those who are beginners, it's a very good time to, they have literature review, make their literature review to a good review article. This also I have practiced with my students from Cochin University, and this is going to be published in 2021 by Elsevier. Though they are beginners, if the supervisor take care that you can have a good review article from the beginner research students, and it can lead to a publication in a good publication. So Cambridge University Press, it's a very prestigious publisher, and we will in future we will also have a publication, all possible publication with Cambridge University Press. Regarding the open access, there are many advantages. And again, being a physicist, I feel proud that maybe the first open access may be the archives, which maybe the Los Alamos laboratory started. But archives has its own pros and cons. You may, your work may be seen by others, but the credit may not you get in the archives. But open access has many advantages. Reasonably, they are very fast, and it is accessible to all. But there is a problem how to meet the publication charges, both for the publisher as well as for the author. So recently we had a Higher Education Council, which is the council of by the government of Kerala. So we have put a proposal to them to subscribe all journals through them for all the universities in Kerala. So we pool all our resources of all the universities and ask the Higher Education Council to get all the journals, e-journals. So since we are pooling, and since we are much bigger subscriber base, the publisher may also give some more subsidy. So that is going on. Another point which I want to stress here is about the plagiarism, especially the beginners. They should be careful. I have seen that most of the students think that self-plagiarism is not an issue at all, but it's very important issue because it should be addressed, because the research scholars are also attending this meeting. They should take care of that. Usually, English being a second language or a foreign language, they tend to write, especially those who are doing experimental research. They think that experimental part can also be reproduced what they have written earlier. This may lead to problems, and also they should be cautious with photographs, especially when they reproduce. They have to get the permission. Also, when they use graphs, there are certain techniques. If you want to reproduce the graphs, You can use the raw data and replot it and give the credit to the previous publisher. That will escape from the legal issues. So the students should be aware of the importance, and you have to go through the plagiarism checking. Unfortunately, the Urkunt software, which is available in our library, their database is not that strong, and it may not they may not catch up the plagiarism check when you check the plagiarism. So the best way to do is either go for some paid plagiarism checker, or you go for Authenticate or Turnitin, which is more appropriate one. So I think this initiative by the IQAC as well as the Cambridge University Press will give an idea to the students as well as the young faculties regarding the publishing process and the plagiarism checking and all. And I think that in future, at least we will have a partnership program. Calicut University will have a partnership program with the Cambridge University Press. With these words, with all your permission, I declare this workshop is inaugurated. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. And thank you for such elaborate, details about your areas of interest, the kind of focus that you have made on specifically on the research, and the issues that researchers are facing, especially around plagiarism, the peer review process, and obviously, yes, we are all these are the things which are packed in this workshop, and we will definitely like to stress upon some of these areas for the benefit of the audience. And finally, to just before we begin, on behalf of the Cambridge University Press team, including me and the editorial colleagues who have joined us today, and Vinod and Adarsh, we would also like to extend our heartiest gratitude for giving us the opportunity to organize this workshop, and I'm sure the attendees would definitely find value in it. This is our endeavor and commitment. With that, I'll now officially begin. So today I've been joined by Anisha and Shohini. Unfortunately, Vaishali couldn't make it today because of some very personal family reasons, but her part would be covered by Shohini. They both represent our editorial and publishing team. And So just to before we officially begin, just few housekeeping announcements. By default, whomsoever who is joining, they will be on mute, and try to keep your microphone on mute if you're not speaking. You can continue to submit your questions in the chat box, and we will be recording this webinar for internal use. So if you have any issues with any sound, if you are not able to see any slides, please feel free to highlight that in the chat box. We will see it from the time to time. So we have a lot of ground to cover already. And Sir has also, Professor Jairaj has also given us some goals, which we will ensure that we definitely touch upon. So my bit would be, I'll briefly give a detail about the Cambridge University Press. We'll stress upon the press open access initiatives. And we'll also talk about Read and Publish, which is one of our flagship and first of its kind of model that we have launched, and that too in order to propagate the idea of open research. Then very quickly, we will see a couple of platforms, which is Cambridge Core, our academic platform. And after that, means I'll also elaborate how you can expect what kind of service and support from us as a publisher. Apart from that, there will be a detailed and elaborate session on the publishing processes, wherein we will stress upon how to publish a journal article, what are the various peer review processes, how can you submit a manuscript, the book manuscript, what are the do's and don'ts. So I'm sure the attendees and the participants who have joined us today will definitely find it a lot more valuable. So let me begin. So before I begin, I'd like to also stress upon that we all have gone through, and we are still going through very challenging and turbulent times, unprecedented due to the pandemic COVID-19. But like all the institutions have, turned things around by ways of organizing virtual classes for the students. The librarians have completely transitioned into online and digital libraries, trying to provide the best possible support to the researchers in these challenging and tough times. We as an organization were also mobilizing a lot during the COVID-19. Highlighted out here in these slides are some of those noted things, wherein we extended free access to the relevant content, which included more than 700 textbooks until the end of June, to as wide as the list of institutions that we could extend it. It was completely free, and we provided this access to all the institutions, including I think more than 300 institutions in India, and which has seen already and as high as 800,000 downloads during this period of time. We started a Cambridge Reflections blog, wherein we asked our authors to write essays during these challenging period of lockdown, and we also launched lockdown lectures, wherein we started supporting and empowering the educators, that is, the teachers and professors. We also undertook the new and notable publishing. The book that you see, Understanding Coronavirus, it was launched. It was from the ideation to production. It took a period of 3 months flat. That was our commitment, because we knew that this is something which can be very relevant to the audience out here. To the larger fraternity. So we also expedited our production, and we launched this book in a period of flat 90 days. Also, as you can see, Bread, Semen and Cactus, this is our 9 Dots Prize winner for 2019, an author from Mumbai, by Annie Zedi. And I would request the participants to keep themselves on mute at all times, please. This will enable us to have a smooth conduct of the workshop, please. Okay. So apart from that, now coming back to the Cambridge University Press, sir has already, Professor Jairaj, elaborated that we are one of the oldest publishing houses in the world, and we got incepted in the year of 1534. But ever since then, from conventional publishing, we have transformed ourselves into a publisher who is more digital, who is more technologically driven, and who has kept pace with the changing needs of the researcher community. We have offices worldwide, and ever since then, we have published more than 170 Nobel laureates, out of which you can see that 64 Nobel Prize winners have been published from 2018 onwards, including William Nordhaus, who was the winner of 2018 Nobel Prize for Economics. This is our timeline. I'm not going to go through it. It just depicts how we have evolved as an organization. The way the conventional publishing was, and how we have digitized, and how we have kept pace with the changing technologies, and catering to the changing needs of the community. So we cater into 3 divisions. We have our school education division also. We have our academic and higher education division, that is us. And we also have English language teaching and testing division, which are also the organizers of IELTS examination worldwide. So this slide will talk about a mission statement. We are a not-for-profit organization. We invest whatever surplus we make back to the university, that is the University of Cambridge. We are an integrate and affiliate part of University of Cambridge. We are global, as we work with the best scholars and universities around the world. And our commitment to research of the highest quality is fundamental to our being. These are some of our publishing partners with whom we also publish their content, apart from the content produced by us back in our Cambridge, UK and US offices, and also our Delhi office. Now, I'll talk about the open access initiatives. Now, this is a term which has gathered a lot of noise and a lot of momentum over last few years. And I understand the push behind is also very relevant, specifically in these times, wherein the research needs to be open, and it needs to be available to a wider audience and society as a whole. So we, including our University of Cambridge, we are strong advocates of open research, so much so that we have evolved our vision statement accordingly, which now reads unlocking the potential of high quality research and working towards a more impactful, community-led, diverse and efficient open future. And our university's open access position statement is also in sync with it. The university promotes and supports the open research, and they believe that the open research culture not only accelerates the pursuit of knowledge, but it also fosters truly international collaboration. Now, this particular slide gives you a glimpse of how important open access is for us. As I already mentioned, we are a university press, we are a not-for-profit organization, and this is our endeavor that we are a strong propagators of open research, and our endeavor is to move towards an era which is completely open access. So in line with that, out of 400 plus journals that we publish, as you can see, 44 of them are gold open access. That is, they are completely free. So more than 10 to 11% of that. And 279 journals are those which are hybrid open access. That means they are accepting a content which is also open access. Now there can be, there are a lot of stuff and important literature around our open access policies and resources. These links, I will be copying it separately in the chat box with for you to maybe browse through and learn more about. So in this endeavor of ours, we were working a lot in terms of launching a platform, a product which can be a collaborative platform wherein the researchers can upload, share, and advance early and open research. So we have launched our own preprint platform with the name Cambridge Open Engage. This is an early and open research platform where members of the academic community can post preprints, posters, presentations, conference papers, and any accompanying supplementary materials. The best thing is that submitting and reading the content both are free. But for those who want to submit any content, an account is required to submit before you actually submit the content. Now, it comes along with a lot of benefits, both from the researchers and the author's point of view. For researchers, definitely you can find and collaborate with peers. You can discover early and non-traditional open access content. You can extend the collaborative benefits of conferences through to publication. For authors, they can rapidly disseminate the pre-publication research. They can develop and discuss research with peers, and they can build an audience before their paper or their research gets formally published. Now, ever since it was launched, I think in the month of April, but ever since then, we are seeing a lot of movement in our platform. More than 400 working papers and research articles. The early research articles have been already uploaded and submitted with more than 12,000 downloads and 66,000 plus content views. So this shows that there definitely exists a need wherein the researchers would want to collaborate. They would want to. They appreciate any such platform which can enable open research, and it can enable a dialogue between the researcher community before the research is formally published. Now, I would like to maybe showcase, I thought I would be showcasing this platform also, but first let me just continue as of now, and then probably we will see both the products one by one. Now, there was a stress given in Professor Jairaj's introductory address. He said that he would definitely, he first and foremost, understanding the importance of open access and the way it can transform the research is definitely speaks volumes. But he also talked about that whether we can enter into a partnership, a collaborative agreement, to which I would like to means present, read and publish. This is a one of its kind model which enables the transition to a world of open research. And I like to just stress upon and elaborate what exactly read and publish is. So the conventional way of for any institution is the library subscribes to the content, they subscribes to the journals, the research journals, and apart from that, the researcher community, they work on their research papers, and then they choose a journal and then they publish it. and the article processing charges, the APCs, are then paid by either the institution or the department or any funding body which is driving that research. So read and publish changes that all. So instead of paying for the same thing twice, like paying for the subscription separately and paying for the publishing separately, read and publish merges both of them, wherein we not only provide the access to our content to the institution under the read element, but within the publish element, the corresponding authors or the researchers of that particular institution are eligible for subsidies in the APCs, that is the article processing charges, and also in some cases complete waiver of APC charges. Now that's why the name comes, the read and publish, wherein we are trying to strike a balance between the subscription and the publishing, giving the institution a single mode wherein they can cover their subscription and publishing in a single cost itself. Now, it's a sustainable transition model. It uses the existing subscription of any institution, the open access spends, and it supports both the humanities and social sciences as well as science and technology medicine communities. So this is what I was talking about. So earlier, library pays for subscription, the faculty department or library pay for article processing charges. So some of the publishers have article processing charges as high as $4,500. And it varies from journal to journal, publisher to publisher. And then publishing is paid article by article depending upon the author choice. But in read and publish, the library pays, or the institution pays, a single fee in return for both the subscription as well as publishing rights. Author is given a choice, but he or she is encouraged that if they would want to publish in open access, it comes along with no charge or a partial discount in the APCs. Now, where do we stand today? This particular world map shows the number of institutions who are already on board with us under this model of read and publish. And as you can see, within India, we have extended this arrangement with the national consortium, that is IQAC-Sindhu, wherein we have offered our humanities and social sciences packages as well as science and technology packages. The arrangement is that any institution or university subscribing to one of our packages, the researcher or the authors within that particular institution or university can publish articles open access in those set of journals with absolutely no cost of APCs. That means complete waiver of article processing charges coming from those set of institutions, the authors or researchers from those institutions. So I think this itself shows, and by the way, we are, as of now, the only publisher who has this kind of arrangement and agreement within India at a national level. As we speak, there are almost 18 universities and institutions who are reaping the benefits out of it. They have subscribed to our various collections, and we see a lot of publishing coming out of these institutions in an open access format. So, for example, our humanities and social sciences collection covers almost 200 journals. And the authors or the researchers from any particular institution subscribing to our humanities and social sciences collection can publish their articles absolutely free of cost in those 200 journals. We have also extended this arrangement for the Indian Institute of Management, and 3 Indian Institute of Managements are on board, subscribing to a very smaller collection of management journals. And they do not have a complete waiver, but they have a discount in the APCs available to them with a restriction of number of articles in a year. But other than that, under IQAC-Sindhu, there is absolutely no restriction in terms of articles also, and the article processing charges are completely waived off. So this is how read and publish works. Some of the steps remains the same, wherein the manuscript gets prepared, it is submitted for a review basis, for peer review. It gets reviewed, and then a decision is made finally. So if the decision is of acceptance of that particular research, then probably that particular article or the journal article or the research gets forwarded to the transaction process. Now, when I say transaction process here, normally the funding body or the institution or the department will be paying the APCs. In some of the cases, the researcher themselves will be paying the article processing charges. But under read and publish, the libraries are equipped with an approval mechanism wherein if we understand that the researcher is coming from an institution who are already on board with us under read and publish, this transaction process get completely skipped, and it only requires an approval from the administration or the library, and then article gets moved into production and publication phase. So so far, just before I move on to our platform, we have briefly touched upon our open access initiatives. So which includes that one is that we are flipping some of our existing paid journals into completely gold open access. We are launching new gold open access journals altogether. And we are ensuring that our hybrid journals are accepting more and more open access content. So as you see, more than 80% of our journals are either gold open access or they are hybrid open access. Secondly, we launched our open research platform with the name Cambridge Open Engage, which is a preprint platform. Submission and reading is absolutely free of cost. As I said, a submission by anybody requires an account to be created so that it gets notified under who has actually submitted that particular working paper. And then we talked about altogether new model, which is read and publish, which propagates the idea of open access. And as I mentioned, we have already seen successes worldwide, and not only worldwide, within India as well. Now that brings me to our platform, which is Cambridge Core. This is our academic platform, which we have launched in the September of 2016. In a couple of days from now, Cambridge Core will be celebrating its 4th birthday. And Cambridge Core is the result of actually a lot of technological advancements, the back-end investments, which resulted the merging of our various platforms, digital platforms, into one unified single interface, as you see today. So we were having multiple platforms for separate type of contents. Library collection was separate. Cambridge Histories Online, which is our flagship legacy textbooks in the histories. Cambridge Companions, again, our legacy content highlighting some of the noted artists, noted researchers, Nobel scholars. And there were separate platforms for accessing ebooks and e-journals. So all these together got merged into what we today know as Cambridge Core. Now, Cambridge Core, as on today, houses more than 400 journals and 40,000 plus ebooks. It is launched by extensive market research with the researcher needs at its core, at its center. It is intuitive and mobile optimized platform. That means if a researcher is accessing it on his or her handheld device, laptop, tablet for that matter, it will work absolutely fine and absolutely the same as you would find it in a desktop version. Now, today, as I mentioned, it houses more than 400 journals, out of which you can see 6 journals are ranked top 1 in 8 categories, and 15 journals are ranked among top 5 and 32 in top 10. 73% almost of our journals are published with academic societies and institutions worldwide. These are some of our key strengths areas. We are number 1 in the field of mathematics. We are publishers of Acta Numerica, which is the number 1 journal in the field of mathematics. Professor Jairaj already highlighted the content that we have in physics. We have some legacy textbooks. As Sir also mentioned, coming from including the Sir Isaac Newton's early research in his early days. Apart from that, we publish a lot of journals in life sciences, humanities and social sciences, politics and international relations. Again, we are the number 1 publisher in its field, and 4 of our journals are in top 10% of political sciences. So as you can see, we publish in more than 32 subject areas and covering almost everything that any institution like University of Calicut require. These are some of our publishing partners. We are having a partnership with Royal College of Psychiatry, the Nutrition Society, Materials Research Society for that matter, American Political Science Association, and so on and so forth. These are some of our leading journals. Acta numeric, I've already talked about. The impact factor is 8.455. These are the impact factors from 2019 Clarivate Analytics report. Behavioral and brain sciences, again, number one in behavioral sciences and psychology, having an impact factor of 17.3. And these are some of other high impact journals: World Politics, Studies in Second Language Acquisition, Bilingualism, Journal of Financial and Quantitative Analytics. Apart from the 400 journals, we have a huge number of ebooks, and scholarly writing has been hallmark of Cambridge academic publishing. These are some of the statistics. As you can see, we have already covered like publishing more than 170 Nobel laureates. But apart from that, you can see the awards our books have received since 2014, specifically 173 into politics, 31 choice outstanding academic titles in 2019, 3 British Medical Association awards in 2019, 34 Nobel laureate winners in the field of physics. And as you can see, it speaks volumes of by itself the kind of research that we have been doing, the kind of content we have been publishing. Now I'll excuse myself from the slides, and rather I would like to show a live demonstration of Cambridge Core. I hope you can still see my screen. So I will be logging in from a demo institutional account, the organizational account. Sure. So this is Cambridge Core, and as you can see, it has a very simple interface, having a search bar at the center, option of searching content that any institution has access to, the option of browsing by subjects, the services for librarians, authors, and publishing partners, and obviously there's a navigation bar on the top which talks about browsing by subjects, what we publish, services, and about Cambridge Core, which houses some tutorial videos. So if we go on to browse subjects, you will see the subjects are sorted in an alphabetical order, from anthropology to statistics and probability. And if you click on any particular subject area, say suppose physics and astronomy for that matter, this particular page is nothing but subject hub. Subject hub, why we call it subject hub? Because it houses almost everything that we publish within a given subject area. So here I have opened physics and astronomy. As you can see, this houses our physics and astronomy journals. It also gives us further subcategories under which we publish books. So within physics and astronomy, we have books in astrophysics, atomic physics, molecular physics, quantum physics, quantum information, and so on and so forth. A huge collection of books, some of them legacy books. These are highlighted new titles which we are about to publish, but they are already available on Cambridge Core. And these are some of our series which institutions subscribe in some of the institutions subscribe for their library. So all these books are and the journals are available in full text. So suppose if I click Journal of Fluid Mechanics, again a flagship journal in its domain, an interdisciplinary journal, you will see there's also a search bar when we have clicked on a content type. So what I'm trying to drive is there are 3 different search options that Cambridge Core gives you. One at the home page, wherein you can perform a general search and you can find content from the entire Cambridge Core. The other is within a subject, wherein if you want to search anything specific to a subject, you can perform a search over there. It will confine the search results only from that subject area. And apart from that, in any particular content type. So suppose if I know that I'm looking for a journal article which was published under Journal of Fluid Mechanics, I can perform a search here itself. Now, as you can see, the latest volume and issue would be all the issues will be available under all issues, and then the latest issues will be there under the latest issue. By default, almost all of our journals come with the current plus of back volumes. That is that is from 1996 onwards, January 1996 onwards. That means it gives good 22, 23 years of back volumes besides the current volume and issue. So as you can see, the November 2020 issue is also uploaded on Cambridge Core. It automatically represents and indicates how updated the platform is. And since I have logged in from a personal account, you can see that my articles are highlighted as access in green. But if you would like to browse it through currently, it will show get access in blue. There are options which are common to all publisher platforms, like reading an article in an HTML or downloading it in a PDF. That all you can do. But we have also embedded within Cambridge Core a citation reference manager called EasyBib. Now, this is specifically useful for the researcher community who are already working on a research, and they might be using a citation reference manager like Mendeley or EndNote for that matter. So there are more than 700 citation formats in which you can export any citation. And it also gives you flexibility to export it to your existing reference manager. So for that matter, if I'm using Elsevier's Mendeley and I don't want to create an account in EasyBib, I just want to continue using Mendeley, I can very well export the citation directly from here to Mendeley, or for that matter, RefWorks. I can also download this citation in whichever format I would want to. So the idea is that we have given enough flexibility for the users to use as per their wish and will. On the left hand side, you can see there are few options wherein I can select multiple articles. I can send these to Google Drive or send these to my Dropbox account or a Kindle device. I can save to my bookmarks. I can save my search that I have performed. So all this, and I like to also quickly touch upon any of the books which might be relevant for the audience. So we have chosen physics and astronomy. Now let's deep dive into, say, history. Now within history, if you click, we again have a lot of journals out here and a lot of books. As you can see, these are further classified into British history, Australian history, history of medicine. So the books are also available in a similar format. The books can be downloaded in a PDF mode. And these books are available for a perpetual use. That means if an institution subscribe to any set of ebooks, these becomes their proprietary, and it becomes the proprietary of the institution, available for a perpetual use. Incidentally, due to COVID-19 pandemic, there has been an accelerated push from the institutions to convert their libraries into digital, and we have been at the forefront of helping and enabling institutions to convert their existing print holdings into digital versions. So as you can see, the books are highlighted almost in the similar way. They are also altmetric analytics, which are the analytics by a company called Altmetric Inc., which also represents, in a way, how the particular book or journal article is being talked about, where it has all been shared, and who is talking about it, who is tweeting about it, and so on and so forth. Now, I'll quickly go back to the homepage and I'll simply perform a search. And I'll search something related to COVID-19 and India. And as you can see, it is giving me almost 56,000 search results. And within that, on the left-hand side, if you see, we have the functionalities and options to narrow down our search results on the basis of articles, on the basis of book chapters or the series. So if I search, if I select only articles, you will see my search results are now narrowed down to only articles. And all the open access articles you will see that are highlighted upfront as open access. So there is already a lot of open access content available on Cambridge Core, and this will be my suggestion for all those who have joined us today to maybe register yourself on Cambridge Core, create a free account, and just try and browse through the open access content. There are a lot of open access books available, open access journal articles available. I'm sure you might find a lot of them very relevant for you. So I can select multiple journal articles. I can send these to my various accounts. And if I click open on any particular journal article, I like to also highlight an option wherein we have created something called an HTML code reader, which is nothing but a blended functionality of an HTML and a PDF. So PDF, we surveyed a lot of researchers, and I'm sure you would also agree, PDF still remains the most preferred choice, the content choice, the content type choice for the researchers, because it's very easy to read. It's for its clarity, and its file size is also low, and we can copy it and paste it to a pen drive. We can take a print out of the same. So, but at the same time, HTML gives us functionality of linking cross references, and also talks about some of the other reference links within the journal article or within a book chapter, options to maybe increase or decrease the font size. So all those things we have merged and created a functionality called HTML core reader. And as you can see, I can increase or decrease the font size as per my wish and will. I can also, from the left hand side, access some of the information related to this article, whether this is available to me or not. I can also click on the links for these authors who have written this article. So the idea is a lot more functionalities, flexibilities we have added to this platform, keeping in mind the researchers' needs. And as I mentioned, this is a mobile optimized platform wherein if you are accessing it on your handheld devices also, it will work seamlessly and absolutely the same. So apart from that, for the librarians and for the administrator, I would also like to highlight that there are a lot of services that we offer. There can be an organization-wide account. We are Counter 5 compliant. All the metrics and usage reports can be straight away downloaded by the librarians or by the administrator. There are MARC records which are already mentioned. So if you want to integrate it with your library information software, that can be done seamlessly. There are a lot of resources. There are a lot of videos, and the entire price list and everything is listed very transparently on the platform itself, for the library fraternity, for the professors who would want to recommend, or some textbooks or some ebooks for their institutions. Now, with that, I would like to quickly jump to a brief sneak peek of Open Engage. So, as I mentioned, this is our preprint platform, a collaborative platform designed to advance your early research. And as you can see, it's very simple. Again, you can search Open Engage. Again, if I want to search related to COVID, I would get the working papers, the papers which are still in their early stages of research. You can see that the people are working on it. There's an option of downloading it, how many views people have got, and within which subject area, interdisciplinary subject area, these working papers fall. So you can narrow it down accordingly. So if somebody is very much interested in the social science research method related article, they can simply click on that, and it will narrow down to that one paper which is relevant to the social science research scheme. So you can again browse through this platform. As I mentioned, submitting and reading is free. You can create a free account. You can submit your early research. You can collaborate with peers who might be working in a different institution in a different geography. So I think I will now switch back to the slides to take it to a final conclusion before we take a break and open the house for any questions and move to the publishing part of the workshop. So as I mentioned, there are a lot of user guides, training material available. Reporting is very, very simple, and the most recent and most compliant that you will find amongst publishers. You can connect with us across various platforms. You can stay updated from us, and you can set up alerts if you would want to receive any communication in the form of emails from our side in your specific subject areas. So with that, I think whatever I would wanted to cover, I have already covered. And before we move on to the publishing part, I would rather break for a couple of minutes, and I will see if there are any questions and any queries that I can answer at this point in time. So if there are any questions, you can please feel free to either mention in the chat box. Anisha or Vinod, have we received any questions so far related to the piece that we have covered?
Not it.
I think so. I
Okay.
don't think there are questions yet.
Okay. So I know we have covered a lot. We have seen a couple of platforms, but very simple and intuitive. I'm sure you can also experience it easily.
Okay, there is a question on how long is the duration of these courses?
Ma'am, I cannot understand. When you say these courses, you mean to say, I couldn't get your question correctly. Can you maybe elaborate a bit? Okay, so I think means as in the just next step, probably my colleague Anisha will be elaborating on submitting a journal article in detail, the steps, the do's and don'ts, and everything. So just stay tuned for a little more while.
Kunjan, there is a question in the chat box.
Okay.
It says, in your Cambridge Engage program, is it again through the institution framework, or is it possible for a researcher to directly collaborate?
Yeah. So sharing your early research. It does not have any institutional framework. We do not have a mechanism wherein we sell it to institutions as of now. The researchers, this is an early research platform wherein you can just upload your early research content, working paper, presentation, or maybe a conference proceeding, and you can start collaborating. Maybe there might be a researcher in outside of India who would you want to collaborate with. You can feel free to do that.
And if there are two more questions, one is on how can you please specify if the gold and hybrid journals are in open access, or more details about these?
Okay, so out of 400 odd journals that we have, ma'am, there are almost 44 of them which are gold open access. That means they are completely free. You can straight away access, though the content will be available in full text. And out of apart from 44, there are 279 journals which are hybrid open access. That means a portion of those journals also accepts content which is completely open access. Now, there's another question which says how to get an account on Cambridge Core. Cambridge Core as a platform is available to institutions at an institutional level. There can be the institutions can subscribe to either one of our collections, or they can handpick content, as in pick and choose. They can select 4 or 5 journals, or say 5 or 10 ebooks, and then they can subscribe accordingly. And once the subscription is live, the access is made available via static IP authentication, which means that we configure the product on the static IP address of University of Calicut, and everyone and anyone who is either within the premises or connected to the static IP address, either also through a proxy network or virtual private network, they can seamlessly access Cambridge Core without any username and password.
Kunjan, there is a
Yeah,
question.
I can see it, Anisha. Now there are some questions coming, and it's good to see questions. In read and publish agreement, whether Calicut University is eligible, sir, as such, yes. I would. The answer is yes. University of Calicut is also eligible, but as of now, I don't think so. That University of Calicut is a part. We have not entered into that agreement as of now. But yes, read and publish agreement that we have signed up is with the national consortium called eShot Sindhu, which has more than 137 university members and centrally funded technical institutions. So the universities and institutions who are subscribing to one of our collections, either humanities and social sciences or science and technology, they are directly eligible for read and publish. And we, as I mentioned, there are already 18 members who have become a part of this, and they are the researchers and the community members from that particular institution are free to publish their articles without any APCs. There's another question whether the Engage is a preprint repository. The answer is yes. So there's another question: is it possible to publish an article in multiple journals, which is open access, possible at a time? The answer to that is no. Ideally, you should be submitting your journal article one at a time in one journal. because that will be, I think, not only prudent but also transparent to the editorial board of that journal, who would be reviewing your journal article, who will be giving comments and suggestions, and then you would be finally submitting it. So unless you get a clear cut decision being made on your journal article, the idea is to stick around only one journal at a time. That is the most suggesting, and I'm sure my colleagues would be elaborating more on that in their presentation so far. So how do we publish for a book? Is it possible with subjects? Ma'am, just wait for a couple of more minutes. Our colleagues will now begin the publishing part, and they will definitely stress upon writing a manuscript, submitting a manuscript, both book and journal. You will get a huge amount of information from that. Is any opportunity to republish the article which have already been removed from UGC care list? So if I've understood your question correctly, sir, you mean to say that if you have got your article published under UGC, under those journals which were removed from the UGC care list, can that particular article be republished and resubmitted? I think if the article was already published in a given journal, the scenario is very bleak that you can resubmit or republish it. But this is something which perhaps I will not be able to give you a exact and perfect answer. But in my little understanding, I think if the article was already published somewhere, if it has already got a record, like a digital object and identifier of that particular article, which was already published in a journal, I think republishing the same would be very difficult. I don't know whether you can even publish it or not. So I think that was all. If there are no more questions, Anisha, I'll be stopping my screen share and I'll ask you to put up your slides. Thank you.
Is this visible now?
Yes, Anisha.
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. Just a couple of points before we begin and take you through the process of publishing and what we publish, what are the steps involved. May I just request everybody to please put all your questions in the question and answer box, because it is a lot easier to sort through and it will help us address all questions, and we'll know that we aren't missing out on any important points or anything that you are asking. Thanks a lot. And now I'm going to take you through the journals portion of this discussion, which will be followed by my colleague talking about how a book publication goes and what are the steps involved there. So first, to begin with, I'll just take a couple of minutes to explain what we publish. These are some of the titles that, some of the books that we have published so far. And there are several branches of publishing. Most importantly, we publish a lot of textbooks in engineering and science. We publish a lot of course books and research monographs in both science and social sciences. Social sciences has been a point of focus for us for a very long time. We are doing equally well in sciences publishing now as well. And you can find a list of all the books that we have published so far, either on Core or on our website. We also have a number of very prestigious partnerships with a lot of institutes, which this is an example of that, where we have a co-publishing partnership with the Indian Institute of Science in Bangalore. And under the wider collaboration with them, these are some of the books that we have published so far. As I was mentioning, there are a number of textbooks also that we have published, particularly for students in engineering, and it very closely follows the AICTE syllabus. We have also published a lot of monographs, which are not focused from a very student's point of view. That is, these are not textbooks, but they provide cutting edge research, and they are usually of help to faculty members, researchers, and so on, to aid their own work and learning. We also publish a lot of South Asia editions, which is a simple way of understanding is that a lot of books that are published by the Cambridge UK or US offices are adapted by this region to be published as a low price edition. That is, no content of the book changes. It is exactly the same book, but it is published in a way that it makes it affordable for the South Asia market. Okay. These are some of the books that we have published in humanities and social sciences so far. And within this, as somebody was asking, what are the things that we publish within social sciences? So certainly caste, class, anything that you have mentioned in your question, these are all questions that are addressed through the research that we aim to publish, including and not limited to questions of sociology or larger politics, political sciences, international relations, sociology, and so on. And often you would observe that a lot of social sciences is mostly interdisciplinary. So if you want to submit a book proposal or if you want to understand more in depth as to exactly what it is that we publish, please feel free to visit our website or look at Cambridge Core. And now to the main section of this presentation as to what we do for a journal article. Of course, it's a very, very important and crucial point for any researcher or scholar or young scholars, students, to have a significant amount of journal articles published. That counts for a lot. And in this discussion, these are some of the points that you see on the screen now, which we are going to be discussing. We begin with discussing why we need to publish journal articles, how a journal should be selected where you should be making your submission to, how do you write and prepare your manuscript, what is the process of peer review, what it entails, what benefits it could provide to you, the guides, publishing ethics, open access, which Gunjan has already talked about at length, and we are going to address very briefly, and eventually sharing and promotion. So you could say that the most significant point of discussion here is how to publish in a journal article and what are the key things to keep in mind. Of course, the primary question can often arise as to why should I need to publish? So some of the points from an editorial perspective that we feel scholars would think about as to what are they aiming to achieve by publishing a journal article. Primarily, it is, of course, to advance learning, knowledge, specifically in areas of scientific discoveries, proposing theories for social sciences. It could be making a huge contribution to an ongoing discourse. It could also be to establish scientific priority. And once you publish an article or a book, it creates a sort of permanent record of your scholarship, which is beneficial not only for you and the advancement of your career and recognition, but it is also beneficial for a lot of scholars who may be working in the same field. So by publishing, you are not only helping yourself, you are also reaching out to a wide network and audience, and you are encouraging them or providing them with newer ideas to explore what to do with their research. It, of course, ensures that a lot more information is shared, a lot of new ideas are generated. And these are primarily the motives or motivations that keep a scholar going as to why they need to publish. And going by this, why are you publishing? The four dots that you see here would be to change the world, to be an excellent mentor, to be the expert, and to explore my field. These are the points that we feel are most important or most significant to a scholar. It also mentions a point here that says to secure funding. This could, of course, always depend on what kind of requirements are made by an institute or a university you are teaching at, and what kind of grants you could secure through your writing that will aid further research for you. This again is a very crucial point of selecting a journal. So how do you do that? Do you look at a journal that caters to general interests, or is your work such that it needs to belong to a more niche journal, one that has a narrower focus and publishes in very specialized subjects? Is the journal more international? Is it open to a global audience, or is it very region specific? Does it contribute to an ongoing debate? Does it offer open access? These are some of the questions that you need to keep in mind as you try and select a journal. So it is not only about whether the journal will accept or reject your work. You need to be very certain that you are reaching out to the absolute correct journal in your field. So your work needs to fit in with their vision of what the journal has been doing, what are their priorities, what are their focus areas, and you need to ascertain what kind of review process they follow, what their reputation has been like. This we emphasize on this point a lot that you need to be very aware of what are the things that the journal is promising or offering to you, because it often happens, unfortunately, that there are a lot of predatory journals in operation. And for a lot of scholars who are very keen to have their work published, it is very easy for these journals to, take your work and not do enough justice to it. That is, it may not be a very reputed or well-known journal, or they could ask you for a huge fee without offering you any real benefits in return. So on the right, as you see in these boxes, this should be a kind of a checklist for you, where you need to check for these things, that what is their reputation like? Is it very well known? You could discuss it among your colleagues and with your peers, that have they heard of this journal before? What kind of work does it usually do? And for open access, you need to find out what benefits this journal offers, whether you want your article to be available as open access or not. Next is, how do you assess a journal, which is an extension of the points that we just discussed in the previous slide. Here, you need to understand what the editors and the reviewers that operate on that journal, what are they looking for? So one way of doing that is to look through very recent issues of the journal, which will help you understand the flow and flow of that journal. It will help you have a very clear idea of exactly what kind of discourse that this journal propagates and what is it that it is working on. You will then be able to place the significance of your own work and your own research, and you will be able to ascertain what kind of contribution you will be making to this journal. All of this is going to be helpful, because the moment you identify a right journal, it is a step forward in the right direction, because in most cases, why articles are rejected by journals is that in all likelihood the author has not placed their article with the correct journal, because it depends a lot on what kind of focus they have. So it could be possible that you are working on the history of ideas, but you have approached a journal that does not deal very much with this particular subject area. In that case, the editor will not have a choice but to decline your work, and that results in a lot of loss of time and also often motivation. So be very careful that you are choosing the absolute correct journal. For a submission, you need to read the aims and scope of the submission guidelines and overall what the journal is trying to achieve. You can also ascertain what kind of impact factor or what kind of reputation this journal seems to hold within its own subject areas. More often, it happens that, for example, let's say in labor economics, there are about 15 journals. So you need to understand where your work fits in best within which of these 15 journals, and which of them seems to be at the top of the rungs of sorts. Which of them provides the widest audience base, and which is likeliest to do your work justice enough in terms of how it deals with it, what kind of peer review it undertakes, and what kind of audience it promises for your work. And this is about how you prepare your manuscript. Writing your manuscript is the first point, and at the press, all of us, the editors, we often refer to this as the ABC of effective writing, where we emphasize a lot on accuracy, brevity, and clarity. This is important because you need to submit a manuscript, your article or your paper, when it is fully complete. And this is a point that, again, you should keep very firmly in mind, because once you submit, there is very little scope for you to go back and make changes to it, unless it comes from a reviewer where you need to undertake major revisions. But be very careful of presenting a very, very complete article where you have taken care of how it is presented, whether it has a proper grammar, syntax, things like that. And another point that we want to elaborate upon a little bit is, at any point, if you think that as a non-native speaker, you may feel that the presentation that you have made in this paper is not living up to the standards that you expect from a journal article of an international repute, you should not let it dampen you in any way, because it often happens and none of us are native speakers. So you could always seek help from copy editors, freelancers, or author services that Shohini will talk about in a while. So Cambridge and a lot of other places also offer a lot of strong author services where they will undertake this activity for you, that they can proofread or copy edit an article for you before you make a formal submission. Because a lot depends on your presentation of the final work, and often an editor would want to look at how complete an article is before they take it forward to the next steps. You should always read the journal submission guidelines very carefully, and most importantly, you should fact check everything that you are providing in your article. So it needs to be ascertained by the author themselves that everything they have stated in the paper is absolutely correct, and that there are no mistakes, that it can be endorsed by a scholar to be academically very sound. And in terms of brevity, there is a lot that we often discuss with our authors, that within the Indian schooling system or even our university systems, we are often taught that we need to write in a very elaborate manner, or we need to use a lot of complex words to get our ideas across. But let me assure you that that is not the case. That has changed a lot now, and brevity and clarity go hand in hand. And we would really like to assure you on this front that you need to keep your manuscript very, very concise, and you need to present it in a way that is immediately understandable by the editor or by any reader. So it is not mandatory for you. In fact, we would actively discourage you from going into constructing long-winded sentences or using complex words and so on. Significantly here, in terms of brevity and clarity, the title of your article is something that you should focus on a lot. Ideally, we say that a title should not exceed 15 words, and that is for easy understanding of your editor, who will know at a glance what you are talking about, what seems to be the central idea of the paper. And in your writing, just be very confident about what you are writing without going into any kind of jargonistic images. So we understand that that has been the way of writing for a very long time, but it has been undergoing drastic changes over the last few years. So this is something that you can actively explore now, where you can present your ideas in a much more lucid and simple to understand manner. Now, moving on to how you prepare your manuscript. I have already discussed about the title, which needs to be short but descriptive, and you can always leave out filler words. So this is just an example of how you can improve upon your title. So you can see here that the first draft title is Effect of Ultraviolet Light on Spontaneous Chromosome Rearrangement, and so on. It's very long-winded. It can easily be cut down, and it can easily be edited to something more lucid and easily understandable. And on the right, you can see this improved title, which is immediately more appealing. The next point of preparing your manuscript is that it needs to have a clear and informative abstract. It has to briefly summarize the main sections of the paper. And for any paper, the logical progression should always be of that, from going to, you can begin by stating a problem or stating your argument, and then how you work your way through it by providing enough support and evidence to your claim. That is, you state a problem and then you go on to prepare a solution for it. That is the logical flow that your paper should follow. And while you are preparing all of this, the key points to keep in mind would be that, in your structure, in your abstract, you need to identify the knowledge gap, which will help you make a very strong claim in support of your manuscript. That is as to how you are making a very active contribution in this field of literature. And it will help you specify the novelty of your work, the objectives and scope of it, and why this is going to be a standout contribution. Also, you need to focus some bit on the applied research methodology. This, of course, varies across papers, because papers of certain nature may not require a discussion on methodology always, but some papers do, particularly if they are, they have huge data sets, or they have conducted a lot of interviews and so on. For the final 2 points, preferably in the second last section of your paper, it should discuss the results that have been obtained through your interviews or through the research that you have conducted. And the final section should discuss it should be the conclusion, which discusses how you have arrived at this method, and this is the final argument that you are proposing in support of your paper. And again, just as a reminder, that remember to keep all of this very concise and clear, so that it is easily understandable by most. And another point here is about the abstract, which needs to be again very crisp, where you put forth your point very clearly, and you include a lot of keywords, that is 4 to 8 keywords, which will help you maximize the search results for your paper once it is listed in a journal, once it is published. And it's very important to pay particular attention to this, because the keywords that you choose are going to reflect your paper on online searches and so on, and it is going to enhance the visibility of this work. So choosing the absolute correct keywords is very crucial. If you want your press editor or your the editor that you have been in correspondence with, they can advise you on whether you should relook at the choice of keywords, or whether there is anything you could do differently. This brings us to the cover letter that you are, when you are writing or approaching the publishing house initially, or the journal editor initially, what do you need to do? This again is a reiteration of all that I have said so far in terms of preparing either the manuscript or the abstract. Is that the central idea remains the same across all of these elements, is that you need to write in a very clear and precise manner. You need to put forth and highlight your most important findings. You need to describe why this article is a very good fit for this journal. Also, very importantly, and this has come up before in the discussion that Gunjan said you would address, is that you do need to explain that this article has not been published elsewhere. Or if it is under consideration by any other journal, then you need to be upfront about it, and you need to inform the editor that this is the case. This helps in maintaining transparency, and it is also ethical and beneficial for both parties involved to know exactly where we stand. And the structure of a cover letter is just very similar to any standard formal letter that you would be writing. So you need to describe you state the name of your manuscript, you describe what kind of a work it is, what is its rationale, and what are the primary findings from this research. You go on then to explain why you think your work is going to be a very good fit for this journal. You address the specific aspects of this journal's aims and scopes, and make a point as to the other things that you have read published within this journal, how your work would be a direct response to them, or it would help advance some ongoing debate or discourse. As a closing paragraph, you should again state that the manuscript is original, it has not been published before, and it's not under consideration for publication at any other journal. This brings us to another crucial part of any process, which is peer review, which is the most important function in any academic publication process. Why is peer review required? It always helps to have feedback from scholars in the field, because it will ensure that your article is sound and accurate. So more than them ascertaining whether it is a good fit for the journal, the point of peer review is to ensure and endorse that your work is academically sound and it makes a strong contribution for a particular debate, and that is why it should be published. They often offer a lot of constructive feedback. It could possibly alert you to errors even though you have gone through your own work several times to check that everything is correct and appropriate. And often the suggestions made by peer reviewers could help you develop your work in a way that it's possible that it would not have occurred to you before. Because if we have been working on the same thing for a very long time, it often happens that a lot of very seemingly obvious points elude us. So this could be your opportunity where their suggestions or their comments actually open up new avenues of thought for you to explore. And these are three most common types of peer reviews. First, of course, is single blind, where the author doesn't know who the reviewer is, but the reviewers know whose work they are providing comments on. Double blind is where neither the reviewer nor the author would know each other's identity, and this is the most common type, particularly among social sciences, humanities, books, and journals. Open review is something that is becoming increasingly uncommon now, and it is not something that we encourage either. Open reviews are where the reviewer and the author are both aware of each other's identities, and as I was saying, this is something that we do not encourage to maintain fairness and transparency in processes. There are certain journals that provide post-publication peer reviews, particularly those that have some form of an experimental open access publishing system where manuscripts are reviewed after they have been published. And these tend to be open, of course, because once they are published, the author's identity is there for anybody to check. How does the assessment process for journals usually go? So once the journal editor receives a manuscript or an article from an author, they read it in-house to ascertain whether it fits into that journal or not, whether they are submitting to the correct stream or correct subject area, whether it is still a relevant enough publishing point for them. If all of these criteria are met, it goes out for peer review, and there are usually at least 2, if not 3 or more peer reviews for each article. From there, it could go in several directions. It so happens that, and it is extremely rare for this to happen, but just as a point to be mentioned, it could happen that your work comes back after being reviewed by 3 to 4 scholars, and they have all recommended it, and it goes straight to publication. It is nearly always never this smooth, but as I said, it happens in very rare cases. The most common type would be that your work has gone out, it has been reviewed, it comes back to you, and you see that they have made some suggestions for revision, and the journal editor would encourage you to revise and resubmit. Yeah. And again, from there, it could go in several directions, because there is such a thing as a conditional acceptance and also a conditional rejection. So one would be conditional acceptance is where the author ensures that a significant amount of major revisions would be made, which will help improve the work. And a conditional rejection is where for the time being, it is being pushed back or postponed. This does not mean that you need to be, completely rejected, that it has been outrightly rejected. It's not an outright rejection. It is merely that you are being asked to rework on certain aspects of this work and resubmit. It then goes again for a second round of review, which then comes back, and a final decision is taken based on that. Why this is very important, and why we insist that authors engage very closely with the kind of comments they receive from reviewers. And it is not always necessary that the reviewers will make very pertinent points in a very, so to speak, nice way. We have often seen in our experience that there are some very harsh comments. But as editors, we can always assure you that that is not something based on which the editor or the final decision will be based on. You could see this as an opportunity to develop upon your work. So even after a particular work is not accepted, and if it says that this is to be published at some other time, or it needs to be completely reworked, completely overhauled, and you need to come back and submit it at a later time, you could see this rejection or this postponement after review, that it provides you with a wealth of information about possible improvements that you could make to your work. So you do not need to feel disheartened by this. You could consider this as a great opportunity for you to improve and develop further on your work, because this is an opportunity where you have got a lot of advice, a lot of helpful guidelines from established scholars in the field who know the subject very well, who have engaged very closely with your work. And all of these comments that you have received, you can always employ them to create something more contributory or create something more fruitful from your own research. And if still, however, after all of these steps are done, or it has been rejected by a journal, you could think that if at any point you think that it has been unfair, or you are not entirely satisfied with this process, there is a point called appeal, where you can make an appeal to the journal, and you can research the journal's process for appealing, following the reviews, and you can address the points raised by the reviewers, and you have to prepare a reasoned and logical response as to why you think it has been unfair. In that case, the journal will possibly take it up in a way, and they will address your concerns. So how do you handle revisions other than all that we said now? The more very important point here would be to respond in detail to each point that the reviewers have made. And if you happen to disagree with some comments, you need to respond in a very objective manner, and you need to support your arguments and counter points with strong evidence. And finally, the one single most important point in submitting your revisions would be to provide a very detailed list of changes made. So this could often be helpful because it helps avoid further peer review if you present it in a manner where the editor and the reviewers are able to look at it in one glance and understand that this person has taken the previous suggestions very seriously, and they have prepared the revisions in a manner that is now more concrete, and we can see how much the paper has improved. So this is something that you should keep in mind, that provide a very detailed list of changes made. This is essentially summarizing all that you have developed from the previous version of your paper. This is just for your reference, where you can see how an author is responding to the reviewer. This again goes for this, as to how you can utilize these opportunities to improve upon your work. So that was all from me. I will now request Shohini, who will talk about book publishing. And I can understand that with a lot of instructions and slides that we are showing, it could possibly get a little overwhelming, but please feel free to ask any questions in the question and answer box, and we'll address all of that. So, Shohini? Shohini, are you there?
Oh, am I audible?
Yes, audible.
Hello.
You are
This ongoing discussion on the processes of publishing. So I will begin with the slides by elaborating on the processes of book publishing. My colleague Anvesha, she just took you through the steps involved in publishing a journal. So when I'm going to begin talking about the processes for book publishing, you will find that there is a lot of overlap and also a lot of similarities. So the similarities will be mainly in terms of procedural similarities, but there will also be some structural differences. So I will just begin by moving on to the first slide. Okay, how to have your book published? So the first question that we need to ask ourselves, or any potential author needs to ask himself or herself, is why does she or he want to publish a book? So what is the motivation that is driving us to write a book? Like my colleague mentioned, is it just to preserve you to an ongoing literature, to some debate and other things? Or is it just the glamour and or is it just aspirational? So there are multiple steps involved that will ultimately lead you to have your book published. And so all of those are mentioned in the slides. So I will start with the first step by moving on to the next slide. Yes. So how do you decide on a publisher? First, you need to know the topic on which you are going to write. For example, if you are going to write on, like if you are working on a science monograph, or you are working on social sciences book, or it is literature, or is it humanities. So the topic and your subject will determine and give you the answer that which publisher is going to be best suited for you. So also while, since we are speaking here today on behalf of Cambridge University Press, we also need to keep in mind that you will also find publishers who publish like trade books, non-fiction, stories, children's publisher. So first and foremost, we need to decide on the publisher that we want to approach. Then comes the market reach. Like what kind of market do you envision for yourself? Like, do you want a very large reach? For example, if you want your book to reach general readers too, alongside the academic audience, then you need to keep in mind publishers and the books that they publish. A lot of homework and research also leads you to knock the right door. Then comes the editorial support. We all know that our books are like every book that an author writes and it ultimately published, it is as much the author's hard work and blood and sweat as much as the editors. So yes, when a book comes to an editor also personally invests a lot of time, energy, and concentration on the book so that we can bring out a very accurate and high quality publication. So it's a joint effort. So if you want really strong editorial support, then you should also spend some time in looking for publishers who have a very dedicated team of editors who are going to see you through each and every step of the publication. Then the reputation. Of course, like I began with, that you need to consider your discipline and you need to look at few of publishing lists of few publishers and then determine that which is the best fit for you. Then comes, and in today's world, in the times that we are living, is the digital offering. Like gone are the days when we just used to think in terms of physical copies of books being published. So you need to check the digital reach of the publisher, like how many platforms and in how many formats the publisher is publishing your work. And also what kind of functionalities you would like your books to have, whether you want a long shelf life just in terms of the printed version or the digital format, Kindle editions. Like we have a platform which is like as important and as helpful as the Cambridge. On to the next slide. Yes. The first step of publishing a book begins by submitting a book proposal to the publisher. I will draw a small example. Like I often say this during my conversations with different authors, and that like stars are born in the nebula. Like stars are born in the nebula. The first step, like a book is born out of a proposal. Yes, the ideas are there in your mind, but you need to put those ideas in concrete terms on paper. So every publisher has their own format of a book proposal, where we ask for very basic information about the book, then the book abstract, the market, the courses that is in like relevance to the book that you are working, and all such things. So basically, when you are writing a book proposal, these are the things that you need to keep in mind. And like I mentioned, you also, when you are deciding on your publisher, you also need to find a point of contact. Like how will you submit your book proposal? This is a very important thing. That, for example, Cambridge University Press, on our website, we have editorial contacts listed. that for social sciences, you need to send the proposal to this editor with the email IDs listed. For science books, you need to send to this editor, and so on and so forth. So basically, you need to find out the right point of contact, and you need to start by submitting the book proposal. Another important point on which I would like to reiterate here, that please do not send the full manuscript at the first go. Focus on sending the book proposal and just wait, be patient for the publisher to come back to you. Okay, the next step. Yes. So in the next slide, I will be talking about in more detail on how you can, build a very strong proposal. The first step is a title. A title plays a very vital role in explaining what your work is about. It is like it is sort of like your resume, that it builds the first impression. So while it is important to include all information about your book and present it to the publisher in the title, it is also necessary to keep in mind that you don't make it a sentence. So while explaining the journal's processes, my colleague mentioned that there is a standard word limit of 15 that we want to stick to. In case of books, it's not necessarily 15, but you can add a title and a subtitle to it. I will draw again one example here. For example, when we look at advertisements on TV of certain brands, the most common one is, for example, Amul. And the tagline says, "The taste of India." So that actually rings a bell. That makes it very clear that what we are looking at. For example, Raymond, a complete man. So it's not exactly the same thing, but similar. I'm just trying to draw similar examples. Okay, so after the title comes the market need. So there will be a field where you will need to explain the potential market for your book. Why you think these are the mains to groups that would be interested in reading your book. For example, it could be students, it could be, obviously in case of academic works, it will be researchers, it will be graduates, and also it could be the general reader, depending on the topic you are writing. Then you will need to include a detailed table of contents with chapter descriptions or short chapter abstracts that will give the editorial board sitting at the press or the publishing house an idea about what they can expect in the manuscript. You will also need to provide some information on the competition. For example, there are so many thousands of books getting published every year. So what is it that your book will be adding to the existing field of literature? In what way your book will be novel? So you will need to refer to some of the established titles or the well-known ones that are already there, similar to your work, but all the while elucidating why we should, or very short technical details that we will need in the proposal. For example, the proposed length of the manuscript, the number and type of illustrations required, any digital feature, and obviously the intended date of publication, intended date of submission. Basically, the press would want to know by when they can expect the manuscript, at which stage you are interested, and why you are well placed to write the book. And this is how we come to the end of this slide. So the basic tips of writing a book proposal. Now we come to the book description. This is, I am going further into mentioning what all you will need to work on while filling up the book proposal. This description will also play a very vital role in conveying the primary information about your content to the editor. So we always suggest our authors and potential authors who get in touch with us that spend time on building a very strong proposal, because a proposal sets the tone of publication. It sets the tone of the direction of the discussion that it is going to take. If you have a strong and well-written proposal, then it is very helpful for the editorial board sitting within the organization, and also for you going forward. You also gain clarity about clarity about how you can make you in which direction you want to take your work. So if you look at the book description here very closely, in the first field, within the first 1 or 2 sentences, you need to mention the target audience, whether it would be for both students and professionals, whether general readers would be interested in the work. Then you need to mention what type of book you are writing. Is it a textbook? Is it a course book or a reference book which will have the potential of becoming or getting recommended as part of reading list? You need to describe the scope of the work, like in short, the methodology that you have used, if you have conducted interviews, and the kind of literature that you have consulted. And lastly, the aim and outcome, like what conclusion are you trying to reach? What is it? How you are substantiating your main argument? What is it that you want to convey to the intended readership and the target audience? So this is all about a good book description. Like I mentioned, the proposal sort of is like a resume for the book. In the same way, a book description, it just takes you to the next step in the publication process. Okay. What are the steps that are involved in the assessment processes for books? So I just explained and elaborated on how to write a book proposal and what all you need to mention in it. So the first step is that you submit a book proposal to the publishing house. Then comes the next step, that is the editorial assessment. The editorial board or the editor concerned, they read your proposal, they discuss it internally, and if we see that it fits and ticks all boxes that we require to look at while considering a book for publication, each and every publishing house will have their own requirements and certain markers, certain mandates that they need to look at, whether it's fitting in their publishing list, whether all the parameters as mentioned in the book proposal are like you have been able to provide all information correctly. Then we invite the chapters for internal review, followed by peer review. So peer review is the step where we invite external experts, necessarily subject matter experts, to comment on the academic aspects of the book, how sound it is in terms of literature review, how sound is the argument, what new is it adding to the field, all of that. So once the review reports come in, we reach the revision and response stage where we evaluate how the reports are, what exactly are the experts' insights on the work. So then, obviously, after the response, the syndicate, if we think that the revisions are like the response are up to the mark and we want to take it forward, we place it before the syndicate board. Well, to introduce what the syndicate board is, the syndicate board of the press is the highest governing body of the press, comprised of subject matter experts across all disciplines. So all books that Cambridge University Press publishes from its 3 editorial centers, all the books are first, all the proposals for books as well as journals are discussed first at this syndicate board. And only then we decide and we come at a conclusion whether a contract will be offered. It is the approval of the syndicate that translates into a contract. Okay, the next slide, please. Okay, this is again in continuation to the assessment process of books, and I will be focusing on peer review because that is again, in case of all academic publication, the most important part of the publication process. Well, in the peer review, like I said, we invite external experts, subject matter experts essentially, to comment on the scope of the work, and accordingly we send it out. Then some cases, depending on the subject and the particular case, they are single blind as well, where the book or the manuscript is assessed by an international reader, and in some case, like one party is aware of the identity of the other. So that is the single blind. That is the case of the single blind peer review. But here it is very important to mention that when you are submitting your manuscript to the publisher, if you have any concerns regarding like whom we want to send the manuscript to, if you feel that you need to specify certain scholars whom we should not be getting in touch with, you are free to do so. The commissioning editor, who will be in touch with you right from the beginning, will see the case see the case very minutely, discuss it internally, and then arrive at a decision. And also, once the book gets reviewed and the reports come in, we assess the reports internally first. Like there are certain scenarios where we see that 2 to 3 readers, that is our standard number of readers that we prefer. Sending the manuscript work is based primarily on South Asia. So if the reviewers, they recommend, all 3 readers, they recommend publication, we directly place it in front of the syndicate board and they recommend publication. But made stronger if the author agrees to undertake further revisions. Like my colleague had also explained something similar while explaining the journal's peer review process. So then we always go back to the author, requesting him to respond to the referee's comments. Well, once the reports come in, you need to respond to all the reviewers' comments in a very sound manner. Even if you do not agree to certain points that they have made, you think that this is not in line with your central argument, then you need to very clearly state a defense. For example, we are all aware that when a PhD is, before a PhD is awarded, you need to present a defense of your thesis. So consider it, well, in case of publishing books publication process, after the peer review is done, the response that you provide to the reviewers' reports. Okay, so this was the second scenario where we invite or we go back to the author and ask them to revise and resubmit the manuscript. And the third scenario is if the review reports are completely negative, if all the readers recommend it not to be taken forward. Well, in this case, we just we are bound by certain limitations, but we always keep encouraging authors to not get demotivated by negative reports and find a way to work around the topic or reshape, reorganize the topic in a way that there is room for, you know, making a fresh submission. So that is the third scenario. Okay, the next slide, please. Yeah. So until now, I spoke about all the steps involved until a manuscript is, until a contract is signed, starting from the book proposal. So what happens after a contract is signed? Like after spending so much time, effort, and also energy, you have finally, you have finally signed the contract with the publisher, and you will now look forward to seeing your book in print and also in e-format. It will be published, you know that. So what is the next step? Then we invite the complete manuscript for submission. We invite the complete manuscript for submission, and after a certain number of internal checks and other parameters that we look at a complete manuscript. For example, if everything is present, all the chapters are there, how the word file, certain technical checks that the commissioning team performs at their end, we hand over the manuscript to our pre-press editorial team. So if you look at this slide very minutely, and if you follow the flow chart and the boxes here, so you will see that there are multiple steps involved. Like it begins with a check of the manuscript, copy editing, then typesetting and layout, Then the proofing, after the copy editing process is over, the author queries are raised and the authors have responded to the queries, we generate the proofs. So there are then simultaneous processes also continue when the proofs are being worked on, and the cover, the design team, they design the cover, the ISBN is allocated, and all of this, then circulation of marketing information, this the commissioning team undertakes in collaboration with the author, and our marketing colleagues come into the foreground. And basically this is a very dynamic process where all of this keeps happening. And post pre-press, when the copy editing, proofing, author queries and everything has been addressed, we check the final proofs and advanced copies. Like this is the last gate where we see if all parameters, all standard elements that the press looks for, if all of those have been taken into consideration, and we a go ahead is given for sending the files to to printing. Okay, so this was the pre-press cycle, comes after, follows which. So like here we see that there is a step where we negotiate the contract. Here basically we ask for the submission date, the word count of the manuscript, basically any kind of, when you are signing a contract, you are agreeing to some legal, you're making some legal commitments to the press, and the press is also making some legal commitments to you. So the author gets a chance to review the contract, and if he or she has any queries, if the authors, they have any queries, then they come back to us, to the editor, and we go back to them. And basically this is how a contract is negotiated. Then you can see it's agree and submit the final manuscript. One important point where I would like to highlight on is the clearance review of the manuscript. In certain cases, when I was talking about the types of reviews, so reviews which are suggestive or a bit critical in nature, yes, the press will take your work forward and it will publish your work, provided the final manuscript that you submit has met with all the mandates that the press sets. So after you submit the final manuscript to us, before we hand it over to pre-press, happens this clearance review. We send it out for one final round of quick. So when the book has gone through the pre-press cycle, it is transmitted to production for printing. No, just a second. Yeah, so it is transmitted to production, and finally it is handed over for printing. And there you have, finally, after 3 to 4 weeks or a month, depending on the situation and other logistical factors, the book is published. So this was all about life cycle of bookmaking. Yeah. This is a very, very important point that we keep highlighting on. This is the plagiarism check, which involves proper citation of all references, all materials, all third-party, second-party materials that you consult while working on your manuscript and preparing it. So what is plagiarism? To put it very simply, plagiarism is to use another person. You need to be very clear. You need to be very clear that whatever work, whatever material, whether it is an image, whether it is a map, whether it is an interview, whether it is a newspaper clipping, or anything that you're referring to in your work, should be cited according to the international standards of referencing. So there is also another point I would want to highlight here. There is something also that we these days we increasingly keep hearing about is self-plagiarism. Authors often rely on their own pre-published work and material while working on a book, because it won't be necessary that you will be publishing only once. You may have published with a journal before. You may have contributed a book chapter in an edited volume before, and now you are maybe working on your works. Then you should be clearly mentioning it, that you have referred to this work which you have published with X and YZ publisher. And you also need to notify the publisher that you are referring to, you are drawing on from the pre-published, your own pre-published work in some other book that you are working with another publisher. So this is this is what we call self-plagiarism. So it should not be assumed that since you are referring to your own work, you will not need to cite the source, because the publishing rights are held by another party here. So this there is a clear need for transparency here also. So then we will, there is the fair usage term. So for quotation and excerpts that are within 100 to 150 words, we do not need to get a formal permission from the previous publisher. If you carry the full reference in the bibliography or the footnote, be in touch with the publisher or the person concerned to procure a formal permission. Coming to the art and the illustration in your manuscript, everything needs to be cleared. So sometimes we get queries like, what about reports that are available on the public domain? For example, government websites and other reports that everybody and anybody can access. Well, in that case, you need to at least drop in a formal email to the government organization or the website, and then you need to, then we can carry on with our work. And yes, basically all due diligence needs to be followed, even if that's a map or an illustration or whatever tiny bit that you are referring to. Okay, the next so next we come to publishing ethics. It is also as important for journals, books, and everything. These are matter of ethics you need to keep in mind when you are working with an organization. So you need to confirm that the work you are submitting to the publisher has not been submitted elsewhere, because when the editorial board undertakes a work and they start investing their time and energy on it, then they have to, they spend a lot of time. It's basically a very self-consuming exercise. So if we suddenly, there is a need for transparency. If we suddenly discover that this work is also running for a parallel submission, then it's very disappointing for the editorial team as well. So there needs to be a very clear correspondence between the author and the editor. You need to ensure and you need to vouch that the work that you are submitting is original, and it has not been you have followed all standard referencing styles, and you are not reproducing content from any other source. You need to declare any potential conflicts of interest. For example, if you have any prior association with the editor, or you have anyone who works at the same organization, or maybe anything that qualifies within the purview of conflicts of interest, you need to declare that when you are submitting the manuscript. To err is human. So to err is human. So if you have made any mistake, if there has been any error in the manuscript that you may have missed, you need to immediately notify the publisher or the editor you are in touch with, and they can, so that they can address it immediately, right? So this is basically part of one-to-one interaction and engagement with the editorial team, and so that even if there is an issue, that can be addressed immediately. Okay, studies involving human or animal subjects should conform to national, local, and international laws and science, but also social sciences. But mostly in case of science publications, we need to be aware of what the international standards are when you are, like I mentioned in in my discussion of the plagiarism slide, that copyright. So when you are submitting something, be sure that you have the permission to reproduce the content that you have used in your manuscript. So I have already elaborated on this. I am not doing so, and I'm not repeating the entire thing, but moving on to the next slide. Okay, so like until now, I was explaining about the do's and don'ts and the very tiny nitty-gritty details of how you need to approach the publish and everything, plagiarism, pre-press cycle. So to provide a snapshot of what the publishing life cycle of the book and the different functions that the publishers are involved in is mentioned. Then there is the design element where the design team works. Then again, copy editing and proofreading, printing and distribution, where the logistics and many other factors like paper quality, print run, and freight charges, and like how your book will be distributed, the channel partners, where our sales and marketing colleagues play a very important role. Like it is our marketing colleagues who make sure that a book is visible on all digital platforms, the editors. Then after a book is published in its primary market, then we ensure that the book is so our global counterparts sitting in the UK and available to the international audience, because all our books that we publish, those are not just for the niche markets, it's also for the global audience. So then there is the rights and royalties team. Of course, it's a product of your hard work, and you have worked so hard to publish. So there is a basic honorarium, I won't say return, I would say honorarium or an acknowledgement that you get from the IP team, the protection for intellectual property rights and team. They work relentlessly to protect your content. It is protected properly, and if somebody else is drawing on from your work, we make sure that they are also following the same rules and standards that we follow. So overall, these are the multiple functions that a publisher publisher undertakes, and there are many teams who collaborate together to achieve this outcome. My colleagues before me, they have elucidated on what we offer, how our portfolio is like, and what our history is. So we are an academic press that is world known. We are the oldest university press. We have through each and every process, each and every stage of the book publishing. We publish high quality books and journals and testify to what our standards of publishing are, what is the global standard that we adhere to, and we always try to strive to uphold. Then one of the very competitive and on the requirement of a particular competition, and how we publish, how we price our titles. Then we are constantly trying to develop new technology for you to keep in mind their digital reach, like whether your book will be available in ebook format, whether it will be available for Kindle downloads. And in our case, one of our stellar digital platform that we have come up with is the Cambridge Core, which is the home for all academic content. And Gunjan has already elaborated on it earlier. So Cambridge Core, your book will be available on Core. Every book that we publish, it is available on Core. It is available for chapter author services. So as you can see from the slide, we also provide language editing services in collaboration with American Journal of Experts. My colleague Anvesha earlier had elaborated that not always very smart language or very complicated words that we use to write in, and also like other authors from the different global regions where for to use the term. But this is one of the limitations that we have seen arise. So in that case, we also provide author services, and you can get your manuscript edited, copy edited, where again a dedicated team of professionals will help you out. And you can see that there's a short demo going on the screen that is taking you through how you can exactly take the service or use this very helpful function that we provide. End of all the slides. Yes. So I would request you to look at the demo that my colleague is showing you on the screen. And I spoke on for the last maybe 30 minutes or so. So you are please just let us know. I would ask Anvesha or Gunjan to kindly.
Yeah. So Shoini, there's one question. Yeah, precisely so.
Yeah. Okay. And so for our site, there is also a companion website which is an extension. It is called Author Hub. Where once you reach that page, you will see that subject-wise editors are listed there along with our email addresses, specifying very particularly exactly which subject areas we work on. So you could select an editor from there and you could write to them with your query about whether it is a journal article or whether it is a manuscript that you are preparing.
Yeah. And there's another question from Dr. Minimol. Whether the article process.
I think, are you better placed to
Yeah.
answer?
Yeah. So to answer that, article processing charge is applicable to all the journals. All during my presentation also that the APCs vary from publisher to publisher, from journal to journal. Like we are having the APCs of close to £1,900, but there are publishers who are charging upwards of $4,000, $3,500, and it varies. So all the journals are definitely having the APCs, and there is no restriction on that front.
I see a question about how long does it take to review an article to be published in the journal. This actually depends quite a lot on what kind of journal and whom you have approached and so on. But I would estimate for an article, the timeline is longer for a review than that of a book. And it could extend from anywhere between 4 months to please approach us only with a book proposal form, because that is. Kunjan, I think this is all from.
We have already, I think,
Yeah.
stretched the beyond the stipulated time, but I think, and I hope that regarding your research processes. So, on behalf of Cambridge University Press team, I would like to once again, if you have any more questions, anytime you can feel free to reach out to us. We will be happy to answer them. And yeah, thank you once again for turning up in good, overwhelming numbers, and appreciate your time and patience.
Thank you so much. We'll address.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you. With that,
Thank you. Thank
we'll
you.
take your leave. Have a good day. Thanks for all.